Hey, what's up, New City West End? My name's Thurman Williams, and I have the great privilege of being the pastor at New City West End. And then I get to share on Testimony Tuesday. So I'm grateful for that opportunity and chance to share a little bit of my own story with you. I know you hear a lot from me already in the sermon, but maybe some of these things you won't have heard from me before. I actually grew up in Maryland. We lived in Maryland our whole lives until we moved to St. Louis in 2013. And I am the son of a preacher. I've told many of you guys that. My dad was a United Methodist preacher, and we grew up in different parts of Maryland, always in the suburbs in Maryland. One of the things in the United Methodist Church they'll do is they'll move the preachers and their families every 5 or 8 years or so. So we lived in 4 or 5 different places when I was growing up and going to school. And it was kind of thing where we got exposed to a lot of different people. So some of the places we lived were predominantly African American, some were predominantly white, some were mixed. So we got a wide exposure to a lot of different people there. So I grew up in the church and had a great love for sports. That was my love, especially basketball and football. Now, to date myself, to let you know how old I am, my favorite basketball player was Julius Erving. Some of y'all know him as Dr. J. This is way back. And my favorite football player was O.J. Simpson, if you can believe that. This is way before he got in any trouble and had Naked Gun movies and all of that stuff. He was actually a football player. But anyway, I grew up in the church. But then right before my last year of high school, we moved from one part of Maryland to another, to Annapolis, Maryland. And I started attending a ministry, really, I didn't know that's what it was, called Young Life. And there they presented the gospel in a way that I hadn't even understood before. It made it much more personal to me, and it brought together a lot of the things that I knew growing up. And then also the leaders that I had. There were a couple guys, Chip and Marcus, who took a special interest in me as a person. And those things together, I think, combined with the upbringing I had, what I learned, the presenting of the gospel in a way that I could understand as a high school senior, and my friendship with those guys, that is stuff that God used to bring me to himself. And actually I started working at a place right after I graduated, Sandy Point State Park. And I was on the maintenance crew. We would cut lawns, clean bathrooms, that kind of stuff. And one of the people that I ended up working with was a Christian, it turned out. And so one day, we would talk all the time about the different things I was learning. And one day, we were scrubbing toilets in the women's bathroom. And we prayed together in the bathroom. And if you want to say, she led me to Christ in the ladies' room at Sandy Point State Park. I'm praying none of my friends come and see any of this, but that was it. And then, so I went to junior college in Maryland for a couple of years, and then transferred after that because I wanted to play sports in junior college. And then I started right away serving with Young Life as a volunteer. Really, all I did was I was driving kids back and forth to the meetings and learning, all the stuff that they were learning in the meetings. And all through college, I served as a volunteer, and then I ended up going on staff with Young Life after that, as a staff leader. And I was in Prince George's County, Maryland, which is just outside DC and University of Maryland and all that. And then ended up in Baltimore County on staff. And then went through kind of a struggle within my own life, feeling like God was calling me to something different and deeper. And a lot of it was reading a book by John Perkins called Let Justice Roll Down, which was his first book, and it was really his autobiography. And when I read that, I saw this guy that loved Christ, that preached the gospel, but that also cared about issues of justice and reconciliation. And I saw the ministry that he was doing, and I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And so that, along with other things, led me to resign from staff with Young Life. And I was just searching for ministry in the city in Baltimore to be involved in. And then I also was feeling a call to be involved not just in parachurch ministries, but also in the church. And so I met a pastor named Craig Garriott in Baltimore and got involved with their ministry at first just as a volunteer, and was working there and living there in the neighborhood in the inner city. This is in the early 90s. and I started going to seminary at the time, and ended up spending 5 years there. And I met Evie during that time when we were there. She was a teacher at the Christian school that we had there, and we got married, and we were thinking about where God might call us, and we were thinking about staying there with Craig for a little while. And then an opportunity came up just as I was graduating to go and pastor a church called New Song Community Church in Baltimore. And so we took that call, and I ended up spending 13 years there as the pastor before we moved here. Now, we went there with no kids, and then we had 4 by the end of my second year, which was that's a story for another video, but it's a wild story. But God called us here in 2013, and then really in 2017, we started talking about the idea of a church plant here in the West End. And finally, at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, we left to launch this plant with an incredible core group of people that we had here. And it has just been a joy and an incredible time in being the pastor at West End. And so what is being at West End meant to me? What's it meant? It's been a dream come true in a lot of ways in my life. It's combined, I feel like, all the things that we learned growing up, all the things that we learned in ministry all along the way, whether it's youth ministry, whether it's ministry in the PCA, whether it's ministry in the Black church, ministry in the inner city, and it's brought all those things together in one setting. And everything has happened so much faster than we would have imagined. I mean, the way the church started, people coming to the church. We started with an incredible team, 4 elders, 2 deacons, incredible team. Pastor Steve coming on, and Workday basically loaned Steve to us for that whole first year. And then we met Jeremiah, who is so much more than we could have asked or imagined, like amazing. And we had this dream also of wanting to plant a church that would plant other churches and that would see young guys trained up to be sent out in ministry. And we were thinking, maybe in 5 years we might start to see some of that happen. But in the first year, God brought people there, and He brought resources for us to be able to have them and train them and prepare them to be sent out in ministry. And I'm just ecstatic to be a part of that. It's an incredible privilege, and I just enjoy it immensely, and I'm looking forward to seeing all that God does, even in the midst of a pandemic and thereafter. Seeing God move and continue to move in powerful ways. I'm excited to see that and be a part of that. So, embarrassing story. Now, a lot of them I tell y'all anyway in the sermons, but I was thinking of one. I told you my love for sports, and I played basketball and football in junior college. And in my second year, one of the colleges we played was one called Allegheny, and they're like a nationally ranked junior college. So Steve Francis is maybe the most famous person that played there, then went on somewhere else. So we played them in their arena, and one of the guys on their team that went on to play in the NBA was a guy named John Turner. And so we play them, and I'm guarding him, like that was my man. And I'm 6 feet tall. John Turner was like 6'7", and I don't know, 250 pounds or whatever. So I'm guarding him. And during this one particular play, the point guard on their team gets past ours. And so I kind of move over to cut him off. And he passes it to John Turner, who's next to me. And I jump there. And so I'm between him and the basket. And so at first, it kind of went like it was in slow motion. I'm thinking, I'm going to stop this guy from making this basket. And so I go up and jump, and then he jumps, and then he just kind of, it feels like, just kind of keeps going up and up and up. And you can feel it almost like in slow motion. I'm like, I got him. Oh no, I'm in trouble. Oh no. And you can kind of see me go like this on the video. And he takes the ball and dunks it. And it makes a noise, boom! And the crowd goes crazy, and the ball hit me in the head after it went through the basket. And then I got called for a foul. Like literally, I jumped and bounced off of him, and the ball hit me in the head, but I got the foul. And the referee was looking at me, and I look at him, and he's like, you can tell he wanted to say, bro, I don't know what you were thinking about, man. You should have just got out the way. And so anyway, I'm at the free throw line as he's taking his shot, and I look over at my team's bench, and the guys on my team are like, oh man, did you see that? They're making fun of me. It was awesome. It was embarrassing at the time, but looking back, it was a real claim to fame. I got dunked on by an NBA player.